Hello, hello, hello. This is Frantz Kantor here. I'm cartoonist, illustrator, toon talker, and I'm here with
Jim Bridges, and I'm the founder of the Australian Cartoon Museum. And today we're going to do we're both big fans of.
Yes,
Ray Milland.
Ray Milland. So you want to talk a little bit about Ray Milland?
Well, his real name was Alfred Reginald Jones.
He was born in 1907.
At an early age.
Yeah.
But we want to see the photos. Oh, he's young there.
So this is him. He's in quite a few films, favourites of mine, and I like, the horror genre or the thriller genre.
So you think Roger Corman made him a star?
No, I think he was a star well before that.
Oh, okay.
There was a film that's been haunting me ever since I was a kid called The Uninvited, where it was in 1940s.
Is that because you never got invited?
Yeah. It's about it's a scary film about
it is a scary film.
Haunted house.
It's one of the few films that ever scared me.
Yeah. Anyway, this is him in his later years. A very amiable gentleman, very
well, that's how everybody
regular
knows him.
Sort of heroic type of features. At one time, he was the highest paid male actor in Paramount Studios.
He was, especially after he got the Academy Award for Lost Weekend.
Yeah, so Lost Weekend is something I've only ever seen. This is probably from Lost Weekend, I would say. Very.
No, he's got a tie.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
This is him in Dial M for Murder, which is a Hitchcock film. If you haven't seen that, you should. I've actually seen this in 3D.
Why would you want to kill her?
And
the man with the X-ray eyes.
The man with the X-ray eyes, yeah. So this is a Roger Corman film. This is 1963. It's a very preachy film, this film.
Yeah.
And Roger Corman is kind of like somebody who sits on the outskirts of horror and dips his toe in the water and saying, oh, it's too cold or it's too hot. So he's kind of like comedy horror. A very inventive man. Very, the story and everything is very cool. With this, especially the ending, I think. He kind of sees... He's got these X-ray eyes and they keep progressively getting more X-ray. So first off, it starts harmlessly, like he could see his secretary's underwear. And then it progresses on, so he, till he can see her veins and her organs and skeleton. Then he sees through walls, and then eventually he goes crazy because he sees through the universe. He sees through space, time and space. So that's what I mean by it being preachy. This is a photograph that I really like because he's got that really mischievous... He does this sort of sideways looks a lot in his career, from the early days to his last appearances on like Columbo or something like that. He does this, it's like, I'm evil, it's like the, it's a really trope that he's developed just for his characters. And he really, really pushes it. And you get a very keen sense of, a wicked intent.
That's the picture you're going to use?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to get his hair probably from this one, which I think is from, Urbane Villain. So that would be from...
That's from...
Dial M for Murder.
Dial M for Murder, yeah.
Yeah. So there's some great scenes in Dial M for Murder. It's a Hitchcock film. This is from 1944, The Uninvited.
Yes.
This is a... It's not Scrabble. That's actually a Ouija board set up. So that's how
it's about a haunted house, isn't it? And it is scary, and I can't...
It is scary.
I can't actually analyse why it's scary. It's just scary.
What's the unseen? It's unsettling. This is The Big Clock with Charles Laughton, and Charles Laughton's wife's in it too, Angela Lansbury.
No. No.
Yeah.
Lancaster.
Oh yes, sorry. Elsa Lancaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Mix up two old biddies. So it's not Mrs. Marple, it's Mrs. It's
the ghost
monster.
It's Mrs. Frankenstein.
Bride.
That's right, Frankenstein's bride.
And so that's a great
The Big
film.
Clock. Check it out. It's directed by John Farrow, who's an Australian director who was Mia Farrow's dad.
If you have a chance to watch the Columbo series, he plays about 5 different characters throughout the different. I think there's about 4 seasons
with 5 different wigs.
Different wigs.
Yep.
But he's always the same character. And this is from Frogs. Frogs. Let me explain to you what Frogs is. It's like an exploitational film, and it's how you've got piranhas and sharks and all these things.
Let's do frogs. Yeah.
Let's do frogs. It's going through the whole 10 plagues of Egypt, I guess.
And
let's do locusts.
We'll dominate the French market.
Yeah. So he plays this white guy down in Louisiana or something, and he won't move from his mansion, and the whole mansion's getting eaten by frogs, getting overtaken by frogs. This is another exploitational drama. This is like a dummy head of his. This is the thing with two heads. So again, he plays this white guy who's racist, and he has an accident, and he's a genius or something. I don't know. I can't remember the actual reason. But he gets transplanted onto the neck of this criminal, and they go about having adventures.
Not any criminal, but a black criminal.
Yeah, but they go about having adventures.
Is that a Corman movie?
Probably, yeah. Anyway, some of his films, Dial In for Murder, Lost Weekend, The Uninvited, The Man with the X-Ray Eyes, we've just spoke about.
Beau Geste.
Big Clock, Beau Geste.
That's a good film.
Panic in the Year Zero, Premature Burial. That is a really interesting film. That's another Corman classic. Ministry of Fear, which is a fantastic film. That's in the 40s.
Fritz Lang.
Yeah. What else? There's nothing really up until...
Oh, he was in Love Story?
Love Story. Well, okay, I never watched that stuff.
Love means never having to say
I never watched
sorry.
It. Yeah. All right, well, there you go. So let's go back to our picture and see what we're going with. So it's a very interesting face. Quite difficult to draw because he's kind of mercurial.
You're picking another cropped out of focus photo as your source material.
Yeah, I tend to do that.
I think you're trying to get in the Guinness Book of Records or something.
Here it is. We've done this before. This is the kidney bean, right?
Yes, the kidney bean.
So the kidney bean is a nice, simple shape to think about. Okay, so if we wanted to, we could create quite a nice cartoon character based on the kidney bean. But what this actually affords us is the ability to simplify and exaggerate the shape of his head. So rather than concentrating on the proper proportions, in their right measurements and things, we're setting a game. So this is the game, and the game is afoot. And we're going to start drawing details into this outlandish shape that we've created. So it's kind of, I look at caricatures as sort of like a challenge or a game to play with. So you push forms around. We're looking at lighting. We're going to be drawing a three-dimensional drawing with 3-color pencils on toned paper. We're going to be using a white pencil, some brown pencils, and a black pencil, along with some white paint pens and black paint pens, etc. And we're going to create a three-dimensional drawing. So one thing to remember is how we're going to light it. So think about while you're drawing where the light's coming from, and therefore when you put shadows, make sure they're going in the right direction, because then it makes sense. Okay? The other thing we want to remember is, because it's a caricature or any kind of portrait, you need to think about the areas of the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. And this we kind of think of as a T-zone or a mask area.
The important ratio.
Well, the ratios are important for realistic proportions and realistic... you see, this is the area of recognition. When we look at a face, we look at things that we instantly recognize and refer to. So this is the stuff that we're going to be zigging back and forth with, all of these elements on the face as we draw.
I think you're a bit of a gambler. Because, I mean... You're picking a source photo that he's being extreme in, and so
I like that extreme. I like that extremeness. I know you do,
but I'm saying there's a chance you'll miss him.
Because you're using could very well. But I'm going to have fun. That's the whole thing. I don't care if I miss him. It's not important if I miss him. I just have fun.
Can I have fun with you? Can I come along?
So so this kidney bean here, I've transferred this to the paper itself. It's just sort of by freehand. I haven't traced it or anything or projected it. So I've just basically spent about 5-10 minutes sketching up my thumbnail, which is a rough idea. That's how I plan things out, right? So you work out ideas of exaggerated shapes and also some concepts of balance and composition. So balance and composition are achieved by this device I use, which is like a frame within a frame. That's quite a common element that a lot of illustrators and drawers use. If you look at the work of, say, Dries Struzan.
And by having him hanging out of the frame, it gives him the 3D effect.
Yeah, it's overlapping forms. All right, so let's get into some sharper details here. So he's got some very heavy-lidded eyes here, which are, luckily he never went to the plastic surgeon and had them reduced or removed, or his eyelids taken off or something. So they're very, very iconic, and they mean a hell of a lot to his method, because he kind of looks out from underneath them, like he's in,
it works well in close-ups. Evil. Works well in close-ups.
Very well in close-ups. He's a master of the malevolent, the debonair evil guy. The
debonair evil guy. Yeah. Oh yeah. He cornered the market on that, didn't he?
Mm. Well, if you look at, say,
he didn't play too many bad guys.
No, but the ones he did, they worked really well.
They were really
and when he was playing good guys, they were kind of like grumpy. Towards the end, they were sort of grumpy old men. When he was murdered in a few times in Colombo, you said, "Oh well, good, it's good riddance." But just one more thing.
So you believe in the 3-colour process, do you?
Yeah.
White, brown, and black.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that something you've invented, or it's just something?
No, it's just drawing dimensionally, because in the early days of drawing, people like Da Vinci used to use Conti's crayon and charcoal and chalk on toned paper in order to get like a form as well as lines. It's not just drawing the lines; it's drawing the form, which is the volume. So you have an idea to put shading into these things, and also light with.
I've seen quite a few of those drawings, including by Michelangelo and that.
Yeah. The Michelangelo ones actually don't exist anymore.
They've got some drawings. You've got pencils which have sharpened tips. If you're drawing with chalk, how do you? Did they?
You use sharpeners. Special knives or
chalk
blades.
Sharpeners. Okay, all right. Yeah.
And you can use, I don't have any here, but you can basically use the edge like this. So, and you actually hold it like
chalk is soft, isn't it? Chalk's soft.
Well, same with
it crumbles.
Well, so does charcoal and
yes.
Conti's crayon.
Yes.
Crayons are basically.
Conti's a bit harder.
Yeah.
Because it's got oil in it, hasn't it? Isn't that the difference between charcoal and Conte? It's got oil in it.
Yeah.
And compressed.
This is an oil-based pencil.
Oh, okay.
So it's not oily, it doesn't drip. So it's like a wax.
Oils and oils.
Yeah, it's condensed and depressed.
Oh, I just recognised the photo.
Did you?
That's when they do the experiment with the monkey and the different colours.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because he tries the serum for the X-ray eyes on the
Took me a while to like this film, by the way. I've only recently liked it, because when I was a kid I hated the film. A lot of Roger Corman films, especially Vincent Price ones, I loathed growing up. There was just something about them that bugged me. Their theatricality.
Well, they're cheap and nasty.
Well, yeah, but there are a lot of things I watched which are cheap and nasty that I liked, but there was just something about them. I think the theatricality of the acting and the lighting and everything, the coloured lights, the red lights,
that
they used.
He used lots of lights,
which didn't really exist. There was like a stage.
Didn't he make an LSD film with Peter Fonda?
Yeah,
called It's Happening or something, and it's lots of he had a lot of experimental photography in it. The same as in this film, The Man with the X-Ray Eyes.
Yeah.
Although it's called X, the film's called X, and then the subtitle is The Man with the X-Ray Eyes.
Yeah.
Ah. Well, he's obviously been to the barber.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to mess it up a little bit.
Good.
There's no point in having it too neat, because it is a wig after all.
It is a wig.
Hippies. He went bald early.
At an early age, okay.
So he didn't have much. He had like a...
Have you... I didn't know that. Have you read his biography or something?
No.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, he was Welsh.
Well, there you have it.
He was Welsh.
Yeah. So he's the biggest export other than Catherine Zeta-Jones and Tom Jones.
Actually, he was the first Welshman...
That's not called a Jones.
Welsh anything...
That wasn't a Jones.
That won an Academy Award.
Right.
And when the film... He won it for the Lost Weekend.
Yeah.
I think the Welsh were proud of him because it was about an alcoholic. And when he was at the opening of the film in Wales, they gave him the keys of the city. So he was...
Which city?
Cardiff.
Cardiff. Okay.
I don't know.
So it didn't have like a...
No, it
50 letter.
Didn't have 15
name.
L's in it.
With go, go, go at the end.
Yeah. So, he born in 1907 and he died in 1986.
Yeah.
He was also a film director, which people don't know.
Yeah.
And as a young man, he worked on his uncle's horse breeding farm, and he was pretty good with horses.
But did he do a western?
And he joined. He joined the. It's how do they call it? He served in the British Army, but it was called the Household Cavalry. So it was part of the British Army.
Right.
And
a cavalry without horses.
No, they had.
They had horses.
Yeah, but it was sort of anyway. The point is because he knew horses, you see.
Right.
And that's also how he got jobs as an actor. But during the army, he became an expert shot, and he won many shooting competitions.
Right.
Which also helped him later on in his films, And while he was stationed, because they stationed him all over the place during the army, when he was near London, he was introduced to an American actress called Estelle Brody, who was a reasonably big star in the early 20s and Silent Days. And she noticed he was good looking and thought he'd be...
this is the First World War. Is it? No.
Well, he was born in 1907.
Oh, then that would be the First World War.
No, he wasn't in the First World War, but he was in the army.
Okay.
This is
but outside of war. No war.
Yeah. And so there's this American actress called Estelle Brody who told him he should, what do you want to do with your life? And he said, I want to stay in the army. And she said, well, when you become an actor, you've got the looks, I like, I know a bit about acting and all that sort of stuff.
And films were quite new then.
Yeah, I think you got what it takes. So she actually talked him into becoming an actor, actually. Oh. So he got himself out of the army by buying himself out of the army. So I don't know how they do that. There's no catch-22 in that situation, is there?
I don't know.
So he actually paid his way out of the army.
Right.
And then he got a role as a film extra in 1929 in a film called Piccadilly. And he was in a film called The Informer, which, due to his marksmanship, there was some, I don't know, there was some shooting thing in it, so he got the role. And during the making of The Flying Scotsman, which sounds like a train film to me, he changed his name to Milland. And it's based on the mill lands that were near his hometown in Neath, in Wales. So they were mills.
Right.
Those satanic ones you hear about.
No, I don't know.
So mill lands where they had the factories.
Right.
And what was your story about him changing his name?
He based it on a horse.
Yeah.
Back to horse.
But he was he worked for a bookie. So there might be truth in that,
I just made that up.
Oh, did you? Okay. Well, facts are the enemies of truth, are they? Mm-hmm. So in 1930 he left for America and was contracted for MGM, and his first film was Passion Flower, and he didn't get much work after that. So
No,
he went back.
must have stunk.
He made a couple of movies, but they were just small things, small parts. Then he went back to Britain because there was no work in Hollywood, and then things were worse in Britain. So he worked all sorts of menial jobs where he was also worked for a bookie. So, but then...
So my horse idea has some merit.
It has some merit. It has some legs, yeah.
4 of them.
Yeah. So, meanwhile, back in the States, the Depression had started, I think.
Did it? Okay.
And the president invested, set up schemes and stuff, so Hollywood got some more money out of the government, so there were more jobs. So when he went back to America... he couldn't get a job as an actor, but he was offered a job running a petrol station,
Okay.
or what the Americans call a gas station.
Right.
And he went for the job. I think he got it. And on the way back from the interview, he bumped into a casting director who had a problem because they were making a film with George Raft called Bolero. And there was a character in it who was British who busted his leg and he couldn't work. So they needed an Englishman desperately. So
Right.
because he was English, well, they thought he was English.
Welsh. Yeah.
Yeah, he got the job. And the job paid a lot more than working in the petrol station. So it was only a 2-week job. And also he got a couple of other little roles due to the fact that he could ride horses. So he did a bit of stunt work, and he did his own stunt work where he had an accident and wrecked his hand. And that stopped him going in the army in the Second World War.
Right.
Because you're busting at the gut to hear about the war, aren't you?
No.
Yeah. Well,
What
anyway,
happened in the war?
so
You made films.
in a film he was in, I don't know what the film was called anymore, but there was a scene where George Burns and Gracie Allen started to ad-lib. And of course they completely go off.
Okay. We don't know who they are here, probably.
Well, George Burns and Gracie Allen were
A radio show.
Yeah, they're
radio
very famous.
stars.
They were on stage and radio and on TV,
Husband
early
and
TV.
wife.
She played the original Ditzy Blonde,
Yeah.
who got everything mixed up, and he was the straight man. And George Burns ended up, 102 or something when he
Yeah.
died, wasn't he?
So he made a career out of telling people how stupid his wife was.
Yeah, but
What
she
a nice guy.
She wasn't stupid. She's
No.
pretty smart. She was
Yeah.
the brains behind that lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, he lived a long life and ended up playing God in some film, didn't he?
Did he? I don't
Yeah,
know.
played God in one film, and and
Well, he has
he
a
was
very-
that old short guy with the white hair who's always rolling a cigar.
Yeah, well, he has a very imposing voice, kind of
Yes.
like the guy plays God now in a lot of films. But, the voice is something that you trust, so
Yeah.
you kind of believe his voice when you hear
Well, I
it.
don't know. It's a shaggy, craggy sort of voice.
Yeah,
It's not like that guy who was in the Shawshank Redemption who you're talking about.
yeah, but he's got a shaggy voice.
Yeah, but he's got a warm voice too.
So is he. You don't think he's got a warm voice?
No.
I reckon he's quite
Anyway,
convincing.
they started to ad-lib, and of course he was Ray Milland was in the scene with him, so he went along with him, and they're all three ad-libbing. They're completely, going off script, and it was great. So they left it in the film, and they thought, well, this guy's good. He can think on his feet. Ray Milland can think on his feet, because Gracie Allen and George Burns were noted for their
Off script.
their comedy. So, he's not just a pretty face anymore. He can do ad-libbing, So he virtually got a couple of year contract out of that. Yeah, well, a longer
So what
term,
that means is he's
longer-term
good at
contract.
timing. Very
Yeah,
good timing.
he's very lucky actually. I thought, and he says that too,
Yeah.
Anyway, so they were testing new starlets for a film called The Jungle Princess, and they just stuck him in there against all these girls to see what they filmed like. So he's not in the film; he's just there.
What is the
in the
Jungle Princess? That's like Tarzan, only with girls. What is that
I
about?
haven't seen the film, but it was like that, I suppose. Dorothy.
And
Anyway,
what era is this? What is
this
this?
is
30s.
This is 30s, yeah. So,
Okay, so it'd be
and Dorothy-
terrible sound. I'm thinking.
well, that was sort of
You know those echoey, horrible films.
with kookaburras in the jungle.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
Did they have kookaburras in the jungle?
they always had kookaburras in the jungle, and Australians they always laughed.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're testing for new starlets, and they get him to sit there, just as because they're testing the girl, but she's talking to the bloke, so they film it, just see how he reacts,
okay.
right? And he's just sitting there. Anyway, Dorothy Lamour comes along, and she's, an unknown, and she ends up getting the role. And when she finds out that actually he's not in the film, she carries on. And of course, but she's only a new person, so no one takes any attention to her. But then the film he just made with George Burns and Gracie Allen and Carol Lombard and a few other people actually becomes a hit. So suddenly his star is coming up again. So he gets the role, and she becomes like the sexy paramour in all those films, and she was in all those Bing Crosby, Bob Hope movies.
Right.
Dorothy Lamour,
Yeah. Exotic.
Yeah. And she's always got her hair wrapped up in some sort of...
She's got a soft, sultry voice.
Yeah. So he got the role just because she wanted him. Anyway, so they made 3 films together. Those sort of jungly films,
Right.
Anyway, in 1937 he was cast as Bulldog Drummond in Bulldog Drummond Escapes, and Bulldog Drummond is like a tough detective sort of British character. They made a lot of movies with him.
Yeah.
That character, even in the 60s they're making films.
There was a few detectives like Dick Tracy back in those days.
Yeah, and The Saint.
Yeah. That's
Nero. What's his name? Nero.
I
A guy
can't
called
remember.
Nero.
Yeah.
Yeah, all these detectives. So
You can watch these on YouTube. A lot of
yeah,
those
all
are
this stuff's on YouTube. Yeah.
available.
Anyway, then he did Beau Jest with Cooper, Gary Cooper and Robert Preston, and that's where I first became aware of him, because they were those 3 mates.
Yeah.
It's a great movie, actually.
Yeah. It's kind of like what's that other film with the 3 mates and the Gunga Din.
Yeah, Gunga Din. Yeah. With Cary Grant and Victor McLaglen.
Yes.
And
You're looking at the name of the elephant?
somebody Jr. Fairbanks Jr. Yeah, good film. And who was Gunga Din?
Al Jaffe?
Al Jaffe.
No, Sam Jaffe.
Sam Jaffe. Al Jaffe.
Yeah.
Sam Jaffe.
Had something to do with Jaffes or
Yeah,
Jaffes.
who was in who played Dr. Zorba
in Ben Casey.
Ben Casey, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I always like the start of Ben Casey with the symbols of
Man,
woman,
woman, birth,
death, infinity.
and an 8 drawn sideways.
Doesn't mean a damn thing.
Yes, it does.
It's nothing to do with the show.
Yes, it does.
No,
It
it
sets up
doesn't.
all the drama. There's a man, there's a woman, there's a birth, there's a death, and there's infinity.
Yeah, but he usually got stupid stories of people who don't want to get tested or they don't want to get better or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. But Ben Casey, with his smouldering, dark Italian looks, dragged him around.
I liked him better in Untouchables.
Was he in the Untouchables?
Oh, yeah.
What was he? Who did he play?
I don't know.
Are you sure he was in the Untouchables?
One of the detectives. Yeah. He certainly was.
I'm going to have to check that out because,
I got the whole set, so I've been watching him. He's been in a few films. I think Combat as well. He was in Combat, probably.
Vic Morrow,
Yeah,
Rick Jason, Combat.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, and then he made a film in 1939 called Everything Happens at Night with Sonia Heaney, who was a famous skater. And she made, like Johnny Weissmuller was a famous swimmer, Olympic swimmer. So they get into movies. And then the war started. He tried to join up, but he was rejected because when he fell off the horse during one of his film roles, he cut his hand through, and his hand couldn't really work. He lost part of his finger too.
All right.
Which, if you look very closely in some of his films, you'll see. but you have to look very closely because I've never seen it. You know. Anyway, during the war, he worked as a civilian flight instructor because flying planes, teaching planes flight, because he actually could also fly planes besides shoot guns and wrangle horses.
Right.
And he even toured the South Pacific in '44. You know.
So
anyway, back in Hollywood.
We're going through his whole life story, are we?
Back in Hollywood, Cecil D. DeMille wanted John Wayne.
B. DeMille, not D.
D.
B.
B. I've got DeMille.
Yeah, DeMille, but Cecil B. DeMille.
Ah, B. I know what the B was for.
Yeah, we all know what B's for.
Yeah. Anyway, John Wayne was in this Western and ride the
Rough Riders.
Ride the Wild Wind? Yeah.
I don't know. You're the one with the wiki.
Anyway, so and of course he was in that, so that was a big film because anything that DeMille did was big.
Yeah. Meh.
And anyway, the next year he does a musical where he sings, which was a film called the Star Spangled Rhythm.
Mm-hmm. So why is he important? Why do you like him? What film?
Well, I like him.
You liked him as a drunk.
Hang on,
I never saw that.
I like him because when you look at all these characters in films, they're either American or they're British. And he's the only one that I remember could pass for it British or American.
Right. Yeah, he's kind of like, you don't know where he's from.
Yeah.
So he could be from anywhere. It's interesting.
But he also had this, I don't know, he had a dignity about him that I liked.
A believability of, the villain.
And he was even in like an early screwball comedy he was in, and he was running around like a maniac, and he was just perfectly believable in that role, you know. And I saw that film, The Man with the X-Ray Eyes, recently. Yeah. And I just thought he turned in a pretty good performance compared to everybody else in the film anyway.
Well, yeah.
And he's terrific in the Hitchcock film, Dial M for Murder. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not like the best villain, I think.
Well, no,
he's seen in a Hitchcock film. If you talk about villains in a Hitchcock film, he's like the best.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a film called Forever and a Day, which I think is a strange film because it's a film made with British and American money, and it's a movie made during the... I'm just looking at your drawing. It's a movie made during the war, so it's a propaganda film, and it's about this house. It starts off in they're getting bombed during the Blitz,
right?
And then it goes back into history. All the people who lived in that house,
right?
And Ray Milland is one of the characters in that thing, and it's a strange film. It's on YouTube. Check it out. It's like a history film. And the house stays the same. All these different people come through it.
All right.
And then he made The Uninvited.
Yeah.
The Uninvited was made in England, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Now, The Uninvited is a film it's the only film I've ever been terrified in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It really works. And yet it's just an ordinary film.
But you don't know why.
About a mysterious house. And then when I watched I got really scared, so scared you get up and check all the doors and the front door and all that sort of stuff.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and I don't normally get affected by movies like that at all. I don't particularly like films like that, but it really sort of affected me, and I've never been able to analyse why. It's just
it's the presence. It's the
the unknown presence in this house. Yeah.
Well, that's how a lot of horror films that are scary. They like The Exorcist or something. They work because of the unknown.
No, but I mean, The Exorcist, you can't compare it to The Exorcist. You've got spit and blood and crap.
Yeah, but people are not scared about spit and blood. They're scared about the unknown.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea of it. Something you can't see or can't quantify. Like, oh, there's Dracula. Better stay over here. So it's like you're avoiding the monster. The monster will just come after you and walk through the walls.
Anyway, it's a great film, and it's also on YouTube, and I'd check it out. Called The Uninvited.
It's not on YouTube.
Yes, it is. That's where I saw it.
You saw it on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then
I hope
check it out.
It might be one of those films where they put it up for 2 weeks and take it in, but I saw it on YouTube.
Oh, you might get lucky.
Well, if you can't get it, contact Frantz because he's
No.
got 5,000 copies of it, you know.
Don't say that.
Anyway, Fritz Lang made a film called Ministry of Fear in 1944 as a propaganda film, and he's in that. And apparently, I haven't seen it.
I've seen it. It's all about a cake.
It's about a cake.
It's about a cake. He wins a cake comes out of a lunatic asylum, wins a cake. It blows up, and that's it. And comedy ensues. No, it's about the war. It's about fifth columnists and things, and you know, and he uncovers accidentally a ring, a spy ring, and he tries to sort of do the right thing, but he's got to be careful because the police are not all. He has a history that they're aware of.
So it's the wrong man thing.
Yeah, we kind of.
Yeah.
He went to jail, I think.
He's fighting the police on one side and the spies on the other side.
Well, he went to jail for complicit in his wife's death.
Did you ever find out if he was more than complicit?
No. He wasn't. Well, he explained the thing, but
at the end.
No, well, during it, but he explained why, he felt guilty. That's why I think he went to jail.
Anyway, 1945 rolls around, and he gets the role Lost Weekend. Now, Lost Weekend is about a writer who drinks himself stupid over a weekend. That's why it's called Lost. And it was the first big film made about alcoholism. And, of course...
not a popular subject.
It's not a popular subject, although all of us have been touched by it one way or another. Someone in the family is a piss pot,
No.
Or has run off with the silver to buy a whiskey or something.
No.
Or your teenage daughter that you're not paying attention to is probably drinking all your stuff.
I got into my mum's wardrobe when I was a kid and drank all the little, those little gift bottles that people have.
Ah, the little ones.
The little minis.
Did you try them all out, did you?
Yeah.
Any brain damage that's discernible?
I don't know.
Young children shouldn't
Possibly.
drink. I mean, you're a growing person.
No, I was drinking. I was drinking responsibly.
Oh, out of small bottles. Yeah. That's responsible. Yeah, anyway, so he gets into this film, and of course he reads the script and he's really worried because he's got hardly any acting. Like he did about 5 months or 5 weeks in a touring place in London, theatre, and that's about the only training he ever had.
Right.
Besides riding horses and shooting and all that stuff. So he really...
So you're a bit scared that
he
he
was
didn't
very
have
scared.
the acting
he was
chops.
Very scared. So he started...
And the director yelled at him?
He actually started getting drunk, deliberately drunk on set to play the role, and that didn't work.
Nope.
And then he spent a night in the famous Bellevue Hospital in the alcoholics ward, and he only lasted till 3 o'clock in the morning because he couldn't stand it, and they let him out. And he even tried contacting the author of the Lost Weekend and got a lot of information off him, but he was still really worried about this. And when they did the things where he walks down the streets, to make it look real, they used hidden cameras.
Yeah.
So when he's wandering around the streets looking for more booze late at night and stuff like that, they were shot with hidden cameras. But when they go back to do the close-ups, because there's a lot of close-ups in this film,
Yeah.
In the studio, he was really, really worried, and he reckons that he nearly had a breakdown because it was just so much stress.
So
anyway, they're all worried. Because
what was he worried about?
Well, they're all worried because the film's going to be about an unpopular subject.
I think that's why he was worried.
Yeah, but he's acting because he's never been famous for acting, and it's a great role for acting,
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's a great role for drinking.
They're worried that the film's not even going to work, like not just his acting, but the subject matter, Anyway, they're all worried, but he ends up winning the Oscar for the Best Actor. He wins the Cannes Film Festival Best Actor. He wins the National Review Board of Film Reviewers Best Actor, and the New York Film Reviewers Award you know, for Best Actor. So, you know, he wipes the whole acting fraternity for a year, you know.
And the Johnny Walker Award.
And as I said before, he was the first Welsh actor to win an Oscar. But the thing is, he was so good that most people he ever came in contact for years
thought
were
he
convinced
had a problem.
that he had an alcoholic problem. But
Right.
he never did. And, you know, people would walk past the street and just do a couple of hands, like having swigging, and he'd look, oh,
Hey,
God,
Ray.
not another one, you know.
Another bender.
Yeah. Anyway, when they opened the film in Wales, he was there, and they gave him the keys of the city, and that's when he became Paramount's most highly paid actor.
Right.
So he went on and did some other really good films, like The Big Clock, which we talked about before, in '48, and he did a film which I saw recently by Jacques Tourneur, which was shot in Wales, the only film he ever shot in Wales, called The Circle of Danger, which is a good little film. It's about him trying to find out what happened to his brother in the war.
Yeah.
It's a good little film. And then, of course, 54, Dial M for Murder, which was shot in Hollywood, not in England, was it?
It had English sets.
Yeah, anyway. I'm not sure where it was shot, but it's...
Pinewood Studios.
Yeah, it's a good film. It was shot in 3D. Do you want to talk about the 3D process?
Well, 3D was 3D is, as you're probably aware, is a very popular process that has a short lifespan. So, in other words, it does. It's sort of people, what's the new 3D film? And people think, it's going to last forever. And they go out and make 3D films. And then the fad is over and think, no.
Whenever Hollywood gets into trouble, they make 3D films.
No, that's a bit unfair. I think they've done a good job with the 3D stuff that they've done in the past. I quite like their films. It's something like film noir. It kind of suits a genre of style of film language.
Well, did Hitchcock want to make a 3D film, or was it forced on him?
No, I think everybody toys with the idea of making a 3D film. It wasn't forced on him. He just thought, we'll do it, but we'll do it my way. So,
I have a feeling it was forced on him myself, but anyway.
I don't think it was forced on him.
Anyway, it's a very chatty film.
program.
It's a very talky
Process.
film, isn't it?
Well, it looks like a stage play.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very stagey, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it. And they're analysing it to death at the moment on YouTube.
Are they?
Yeah.
What are they saying about Robert Cummings?
Every scene. Oh well, he's useless. He stinks. Yeah. But he'd been in the Saboteur films. He'd been in early Hitchcock.
Saboteur. He's actually very good at.
Well, the whole film's very good.
Yeah, I watch that film every few months. I love that film.
Yeah.
I particularly love the ending where there's no music.
Yeah, they're hanging off.
Having grown up with Hammer films, when the
dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I know. It's just all you can hear is the wind.
All you hear is the wind.
Yeah,
it's the most beautiful death I've ever seen.
Oh, the most beautiful death he's ever seen.
Yeah. Well, visually, it's not much.
The guy's hanging off the Statue of Liberty.
It's just the whole effect
and
of it. It's just really, really
cinematic death.
Yeah, but it's really effective. It's you just feel it, the tension and the inevitability.
Yeah.
Because the thread he's holding literally by his life's held by a thread.
As soon as you get out of the movie, you want to get a decent suit. It's got strong thread. It's got to have strong thread.
Yeah, you come out a bit twitchy.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Although I've never seen it in the cinema. I
anyway,
wouldn't mind seeing that.
The year after that was 54. The year after that, he directed his first movie called A Man Alone, which was a Western. And he directed a film called Lisbon.
Which was a travelogue.
No, it wasn't.
I don't know what Lisbon is.
Oh, it's a thriller.
It's a port.
Thriller. Anyway, in 62, Premature Burial. Now, I'll hand the talking over to you.
to me.
Yeah, you've seen it. I haven't.
You haven't seen Premature Burial?
No,
it's a
I
Roger
haven't.
Corman film.
I know.
It's based on...
I've seen most of his films, but I haven't seen that one.
It's based on a Edgar Allan Poe story about being buried alive. And this guy has this... I think they call it narcolepsy. He has this...
yeah, he falls asleep.
He falls asleep and is always scared of being buried. So he has this terror.
Hang on, he's not buried.
And his wife...
don't they brick him up or something? Him up?
No, in the book maybe, but no, that's the Telltale Heart. Or
that's right, the Telltale Heart. Yes,
Montellado.
That's right.
There's quite a lot of this.
Yes, bricking up.
In Poe.
Go and get bricked.
But he gets his wife uses his fear against him to kill him, to scare him to death, and of course that and his worst nightmare comes true. He gets buried alive.
He wakes up
in a box. He breaks out, unbeknownst to her, and wreaks revenge. So it's obviously if Poe didn't have, I haven't read the actual story, but I think you'll find that Corman put his spin on the story. So it was interesting.
Well, I've heard that it's one of his best films, Corman's films.
Yeah.
Anyway, the next year he does The Man with the X-Ray Eyes, where it ends in a religious tent.
Yeah, revival meeting in a tent, and he because at this stage his X-ray vision, he sees things that no one can see.
He sees the corruption of mankind. He sees the universe. He sees everything, past everything. So he's going off. His brain can't take all this stuff. Yeah. And then the priest, the bloke up the front,
if thine eye offends thee,
pluck it out.
Yeah.
And that's what.
So that was it. That's the
end of the film. It's a very quick ending.
Yeah. So, he
and his girlfriend and the police are standing in the background, out of focus. You know they're going to be seeing all this, but he doesn't do it. Cut to them because it costs money. Yeah. Anyway, so
it's got a really lame car chase in it.
Yeah, very lame, with a helicopter. But it was also shot on the same...
That was the 70s, late 60s.
The same roads that Jewel was shot in. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Oh, you've seen the same show, I saw. Okay.
Yep.
And then
I haven't seen
he directed and starred in a film called Year Zero.
Yeah.
Which is about... He's the last man standing or something?
I don't know, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, me neither. So he directed himself in that. And 1970 rolls around and, love means never having to say sorry.
Haven't seen that.
Which was the love story. And he played the big film Love Story, big book, big film.
Big Daddy.
And he played the father of Ryan O'Neill in 1970. And in 1978, the remake called Oliver Story, he played his father again. And this is without a wig. These two roles. He didn't have a wig, did he?
No.
He didn't have a wig.
He played without a wig in a couple of episodes of Columbo.
Yeah. Well, I haven't mentioned much of his TV work at all because there's just so much.
Well, he was in Frogs.
Yeah, he was in Frogs. He was in Heart to Heart.
Don't know what that is.
Well, you never heard of Heart to Heart?
Is it a TV show?
Yeah, a TV show. Played the woman's dad.
Okay.
And there's that thing with two heads. And
yeah,
in 1940, during the war, he became a naturalised Americano. So they couldn't send him back to England. But did you know that in 1934 he was in Charlie Chan in London? Now you didn't know that because you know a lot about Charlie Chan movies. So do I.
I haven't seen a lot of Werner Oland versions. I've seen a lot of the Sidney Toler versions.
And 3 years before that, he was in Blonde Crazy with Cagney, which I don't remember him in. But I do remember in a 1940s film called The Doctor Takes a Wife.
No.
I remember that. That's with
so you're more of a film buff than I test to, because I don't watch stuff that don't have monsters in it.
What's this thing about monsters?
Just they're more interesting people.
Monsters are more interesting people. Okay, all right. He was also in Sullivan's Travels, which I don't remember him in.
I don't know who
Sullivan's
Sullivan
Travels is a famous film about a film director who actually goes off trying to find real stories. He ends up seeing all these poor people during the Depression. and it was like a social realist sort of Hollywood movie.
Right. Oh, perfect film for me then.
No, there's no monsters. So are you interested in sociopaths, are you?
No, I'm interested in the performance. So
the
he
performance
can actually create something that's very exciting to watch. The villains that he plays. This is I love this expression here that I'm drawing.
Yeah, you do.
It's something that I instantly can recognise in him.
Is that why it's accurate?
He does this
is that why you haven't gone off character? It's God, you got his hair combed beautifully. Look at that guy.
He's got a.
Have you ever thought of going into hairdressing or makeup?
Yeah, he's got a beautiful this side-on expression, looking at the side. So his face is to camera, and he looks at the side. So it's like an animation.
Trope
animation process of always have the face in shot, and it sounds very corny, but it works brilliantly, obviously for animation, but this is a sort of a stylized form of acting, and he does it so well.
I like what you've done with the nose. You just hinted that it comes in here. It's nice.
So he's.
You're not going to go in there, are you?
In where?
That line that
I'm
goes
not picking
into
the nose.
No, you're not going to go in there.
No.
Yeah, and he did golden earrings with Marlene Dietrich, or my father used to call it Dirt Track. And he played in The Last Tycoon with directed by Elia Kazan, which is a film made in the 80s, I think, with.
Well, he died in 86.
Yeah, with I'm just trying to think.
He'll be working right up to the end.
With Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro played the tycoon.
Right.
But I don't remember him that. And he was in the first episode of Battlestar Galactica.
Right.
But, and here's the last bit, he played the voice of Satan in the 1961 King of Kings.
Right.
Which was uncredited.
Yeah.
Now, no one knows that.
No, I don't even remember it.
Oh, well, Jeffrey Hunter played Jesus.
Yeah, I know that.
I remember when he died, it says Jesus dies. That was the headline. Jesus dies.
In the paper?
Yeah, they had it in the paper, Jesus dies. It's like when
was that news to them, was it? It's like
of course
2000
it was. It's like when
years
Superman, like when George Reeves shot himself, it says Superman dies. It's a heading. It's a big newspaper heading.
Right, okay. Man bites dog, Superman dies.
Yeah.
Terrific. They're always on top of things, aren't they?
Is that his...
It's wonderful how relevant news is. Got a little bit of an issue coming up here.
What's the issue? What, the white versus the black? Now, what do you call that? Contrast, don't you? So you've got his eyes.
Have I?
Oh, yeah. You've got his eyes. A bit worried about the mouth, but...
I like the mouth.
Yeah. Now, you did a good job on the mouth, but it's sort of...
Maybe it's too...
Could be somebody else's mouth, not just his, you know. My God, you just...
What?
Whitened his teeth dramatically.
Yeah. Well, it's his lower jaw, it's his lower teeth.
Yeah.
The choppers at the lower falsies.
Now, it's funny because that photo, I was too busy looking at the monkey when that was in, you know, because the monkey grabs at different coloured levers, you see, and these colours, the blue, the white, and the red. Is that red? Being colourblind, I suppose it is red. Yeah.
What? That's white.
No, is that red?
That's red.
Yeah, I got it right. Oh, yes. They're hidden from the monkey.
Right.
And he puts these drops in the monkey's eyes, which is slightly violent, I remember.
Yeah, and the monkey goes mad.
Yeah, and actually
dies.
But it recognises the colours through a wall that it can't see.
Yeah.
Actually look through and sees his colours. So
he plays a mad scientist who tests his theory on himself.
Yes.
So it's driven by ego.
Yes.
And you can see it in every single pore of his skin on screen.
Every single pore of his skin.
Yeah.
His ego starts to drip out of his...
out of his skin.
Oh, okay.
It's a fascinating performance. It's a real stinker of a film, but it's a really fascinating performance. Whenever I see him in films, haven't watched all of his films, and some of them I've watched and like Frogs or Thing with Two Heads. I think I could live without that. But his performances on, say, Columbo, or The Uninvited, or The Big Clock, or something like that, it just hypnotizes me. It's just a really intense
he's sort of like
experience.
He's sort of like a watered down version of Cary Grant in a lot of those films.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not that familiar with Cary Grant other than Hitchcock's.
Jody.
I don't really watch a lot of stuff like that. But maybe
haven't you seen Arsenic and Old Lace?
I've heard a lot about it. But I haven't
you should check it out. It's got some monsters in it. Raymond Massey, Peter Lorre.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. All right, I'll
It's
check
about
it out.
two old ladies who knock
Poison
off people.
Yeah, I know. So, very interesting actor, this fellow, and his performances, because it's such, you need somebody to hold the fort while you're watching a horror film, and he does that. He sort of really, creates this sense of inevitability and believability in the film itself, in the story.
Well, for someone who didn't think he was much of an actor, I thought he was a good actor.
He is a good actor. To me, I only watch him in these films, so
you
to
don't
me,
look at the
he's
other people.
I'm not interested in the topics of the other things.
Oh.
So, all I can say is that he's really, his performance in horror films that I've seen is really, really top-notch. So, I can't think of anything else I want to say with his face. I've got his watery evilness, this watery evilness of this driven scientist. It's really very, very exciting. I'm very happy I got a chance to draw Ray again. It was nice. So that's him before. That's him after. This is Frantz Kantor and
Jim Bridges
saying we'll catch you
on the flip side.
Bye-bye.